How's it going, folks? Welcome back. You've made it to video number 7. Congratulations. I hope you're having tons and tons and tons of fun and learning a whole bunch. We just finished with the absolute most important thing, obviously. So now we're on to the second most important thing. The second most important thing has a tendency to shock some people because they consider it maybe a little common sense, but I'm here to tell you, in my 41 years of learning, there is nothing common about common sense, all right? It is the second most important thing. It is crazy, crazy common sense, but so many people skip this step. I don't know exactly why it is. Maybe because it can be intimidating, maybe because it's not just jumping in and doing things, but the second most important thing that I can give you, the second most important thing about creating your show is a plan. You gotta have a plan. You have to have a plan. I'm going to repeat this because it's this important. It is the second most important thing. You have to have a plan. Before you create, before you record, before you get on the video, before you get on the podcast, before you start your radio show, before any of that happens, you have to have a plan. Okay? Now, you got to know what you're going to say, right? That's what's happening. You got to know when you're going to say it, which is when. Okay, that's what you need a plan for. Now, again, people skip these steps. And look, I'll be completely upfront with you. I am the king. I am an expert at shooting from the hip. You give me a day to research something and to put it up and, and get going, I'll get going on it. I am the king of shooting from the hip. I do it all the time. I'm the king of getting down a rabbit hole and telling a story that may be irrelevant to what I'm talking about, but I think it's really funny at the time. And again, I have a different sense of humor. But again, I have a plan. You got to have a plan. When are you going to tell this story? What story is relevant? What information are you going to cover and how are you going to cover it? Where did you get that information? How reliable is the information? All of this stuff has got to be in your plan. Otherwise, you get crazy off topic and the people that you may be teaching or the people you may be watching your show or your audience or your clients may get off track, right? You are there to deliver a message. If you're on a listing appointment or if you're a lender and you're talking to a client, you have an objective. You have a point to get across. Same thing with your show. You have a show. This show, the second most important thing, has a point to get across. It's hard to deliver that point if you're all over the place, right? You need a plan. Now, I want to make something very clear. There is a difference between a script and a plan, okay? To me, anyway, right? They can be used as similar synonyms. I'm horrible at grammar. Point is there's a difference. Some people think they need scripted. Now, scripted to me is a lifeless object. Scripted to me is I'm sitting here word for word and I'm reading off letter by letter, word by word. There were decades ago when I was very young, I took a job, very temporarily by the way, for Southwestern Bell, right? When phone companies were huge and stuff like this. And Southwestern Bell, back in the day, was a massive company. And one of the things they tried to do is everybody knows them as a phone company, but back before cell phones were so predominantly, Southwestern Bell, just like cell phones now, their customer service agents weren't just customer service agents, they were sales agents. They sold you things like long distance or different phone calling plans, whatever, right? So when you called up Southwestern Bell, if you had a problem or you had a question, their job was to sell you things. Now, how Southwestern Bell, being an old school company, tried to control that was they gave all of their customer service agents, their sales agents, scripts. And not only did they give them scripts, they had to read it word for word for word for word. No flexibility. And when I say that was the point, when I say it was a short-lived part-time job for me, it was extremely short-lived because not only did they try to put me in a box, but they had people listening all the time to make sure that you said word for word exactly what they wanted you to. Now, I get where they were trying to go and I get what they were trying to control, but it comes across as robotic, lifeless. I remember on my second or third call during my trial period of doing this, before I was just threw my hands up and was done, the person on the other end of the phone literally said, "Are you reading from a script?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And I got in trouble for answering his question, right? That's a script to me, okay? To me, a plan is different. A plan is just that. It's bullet points. It gives you freedom to move around. It gives you freedom to change stories, to move around stories, to get to a point and then come back to a point, right? To me, a plan is like a presentation, right? People think of PowerPoint and that kind of stuff. To me, when I'm presenting, I use PowerPoint like everybody else, but a PowerPoint presentation to me is just a reminder of where I am in my presentation. I always tell the people that I was ever presenting to, or when I was presenting, I was teaching them, if people are sitting there reading line by line the PowerPoint behind you, they're not listening to the words that are coming out of your mouth. The PowerPoint is not for the audience. The PowerPoint is for you to remind you where you are in your presentation, right? Now, if you think about a plan and why it's so important, think about any, again, show, podcast, radio show, anything that you consume, the news on a daily basis. They all know exactly, when you watch the news, for example, the 6 o'clock news, whatever, the evening news, typically, unless there's a big, huge story that's relevant, the weather is the exact same time every time. The sports are the exact same time every time. The broadcast, the main story is the exact same time. And they do that on purpose because you come to expect that, from 6 to 6:30 is the daily news, and at 6:10 the weather's going to come on, and 6:15 the sports is going to come on, and whatever. It's all planned out, and not only is it planned, it's pre-planned so that you know that when you turn into your relevant information, right? There's a local news station here in Austin that they have weather on the ones. The weather on their news channel, 24-hour news channel, weather is every one. 6:01, 6:11, 6:21, 6:31, right? Even though that newscast itself may be completely different 10 minutes later, it's planned, right? You gotta have a plan so that you know and have the flexibility to change, right? You don't get upset if you turn on the daily news at 6:10 and it's not the weather. Okay, maybe there's a big news story going on, right? Listing appointments are same thing. Again, you gotta have a process, you gotta have a plan. But I think, again, my opinion, I'm going to disclaimer everything, we get too caught up in the exact words that we're going to use, the exact phrase we're going to get to use. I get this question all the time. Hey, can you share your scripts with me? Or can you send me your scripts? Or this kind of thing or that kind of thing? I don't have any, right? I have a plan, and that plan reminds me to tell a story, or it reminds me where I need to be in that presentation, or make sure that I cover this information or that information. Listing appointments are no different, right? Selling and connecting with people is no different, right? Following a path. So, for example, I like to use, obviously, you're far enough into this process to know that I love to tell stories, right? Stories is how I connect things that I know to myself. It's how I remember things, right? That kind of thing. So, for example, when I'm sitting down, and I think we talked about this in a previous video a little bit, that when I go to a listing appointment, I spend the first part of that listing appointment talking to my clients, right? That's planned. The questions that I ask during that process seem very conversational, but they are planned to make everyone comfortable, to ease everything out of them. So by the time that we sit down to talk about their home and their value and that kind of thing, I know everything I need to know about them to tell certain stories, right? To make them more comfortable and make the information I'm about to present make sense. And even the information that I'm presenting to them, for example, the value of a home, right? We as real estate agents, right, lenders use appraisers, whatever, the process of what we think a home is worth, right, the evaluation, the market analysis process, right, if you're doing it properly, there's a process for what you take to get there, right, of homes and why you evaluate this home versus that home, why you weigh this home that's across the street more than the one in the next neighborhood, these kind of things. I walk my clients, my potential listing clients, through that process, my thinking process, so by the time I get to the end, they already agree. All of that is on purpose. Now, that's not word for word of what I said. It's walking them through the same process, the same plan that I use to evaluate their home. So by the time we get to it, they can say, I want to sell my home for a different price, but I've never had a client say, I don't understand how you got there. Because by the time I present, here's what your home is worth, that's not a question. They completely understand how I got there. That's on purpose. That's a plan. I don't have it written down anywhere. I don't have a script that I'm reading off to them, right? Phone calls are no different to me. Everybody talks about, can you share your phone call scripts and stuff like that? That's all great, but that to me, a script to me is lifeless. It's a starting point, right? That's not where I'm going. It's where I started before I even got on the phone call, right? Now, to keep your audience involved, right? To keep your show, the people watching your show, to keep your listing appointments, to keep your meetings, right? To keep their interest, you need that flexibility. You need to be able to gauge when your audience, when you've gotten too far down a path, right? And you need to bring them back. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's you jumping up and down. Maybe it's a changing the screen. Whatever it can be, right? You need to bring an audience back. Good presenters, stage presenters, and I love being on stage. You know, obviously I enjoy doing this stuff, but being on stage, you get to know this. If your presentation is an hour long, you got to be able to feel when that audience, when you're losing them for some reason, when you've gotten too far down a rabbit hole or you've gotten too far into information and that kind of stuff. When I used to teach a class on financial literacy, right? So I wrote a curriculum that teaches college students about student loans, financial literacy, money management, you know, basically budgeting 101, these kind of things, right? And I had a PowerPoint presentation, but 90% of the entire presentation was these crazy stories about how, you know, when I got to the thing about estimating, when you're budgeting monthly and stuff like that, don't forget about taxes. And I used to use this crazy story about how my wife and my sister-in-law, for example, and they still to this day get together for Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. They get together, they come in, they have Thanksgiving dinner together, that kind of stuff. They're the crazy kind of people that go out at 6 o'clock on Thanksgiving and stay out all night and hit all the 2 a.m. stuff and 3 a.m. stuff and whatever. I watch the kids. I stay at home. But the point is they would come in and they would sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to get this deal, and they'd start circling newspaper articles and, you know what I mean, all the ads and stuff like that. And they go, okay, well, I need this much for this much for this, this much for this, this much for this, right? They come home the next day and they've completely blown out their budget. Well, why? Because 99% of the time they forgot to deal with the taxes. A $200 item is not $200, it's $230, depending on where you are, right? That extra $20 here, extra $30 there, when you're buying 10, 20, 30 gifts, mounts up to hundreds of dollars pretty quick, right? That was one of the stories I told because it was relevant to the financial literacy stuff. It was great to get people involved because it's something they can connect with. Everybody has shopped Black Friday once in their life, right? Or known that craziness. Everybody has spent a high dollar item, $200, $500, $1,000, $2,000 on an item, and that tax just surprises you when it's tacked on, right? during that, you also have to get, now when you're using video, and we talked about using one of the reasons to use live video is you get to get the interaction from your audience, right? I love the interaction of live video, or even that's why I enjoy stage presentations and stuff like that. It's why I still travel around the country and do seminars and stuff like that. I like the live interaction. I feed off of, right, the crowd, right? How the crowd's feeling, how excited they are, when they laugh, when they giggle, when they, make noises, when they whatever, when something really hits in that click and you can just feel it, right? I feed off of that as a presenter, right? So you've got to be able to be flexible and expand on information when you feel that the crowd needs it. And in this, obviously using video, it's a little bit more difficult, right? I can't tell when you're watching this video, I can't tell when that information clicks for you, right? It's hard for me to sit here and go, I saw it click, right? And maybe you can, but I can't, right? Who knows when you're watching this video? You're watching it lying in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. Who knows? The point is video makes that more difficult, but you've still got to associate with it. You still got to make these things make sense. You got to make that connection, right? Your show needs that connection. It needs that plan, right? Now, plans for me, again, are meant to tell me where I'm at in a presentation. I give you a prime example. Right now, I will show you the plan. Let me go over here. Here's the plan for this video right here. Okay? It's got your bullet points. Okay? I'm crazy organized, as you can see, right? Think about daily news, right? The audience interested, needing flexibility. Outline your video, right? Use bullet points. Here's a reminder. Reading PowerPoint slides. You're not listening, right? I told you about all of that. That's what this is. That's all this is, right? It's an outline, but if I want to move one story to the top and the other story to the bottom, I need that flexibility, right? I need to be able to make that change in this, right? Now, I'll tell you a little bit about this stuff. People get caught up on their plans for videos and podcasts and stuff like that. There's a couple of rules, not really rules, but guidelines that I like, right? So, for example, I'm sure everybody's seen Wheel of Fortune, right? It's been on, I think, my entire life, right? So it's probably been on yours because I'm old. So, everybody loves Wheel of Fortune. One of the great things about Wheel of Fortune that I love is if you're familiar with the show or you've watched it several times, you know that when the Wheel of Fortune comes on, they show Wheel of Fortune, they get down, and the first thing they do is not introduce, they don't introduce Pat Sajak, they don't introduce Vanna White. They literally start playing Wheel of Fortune, right? Pat Sajak says, all right, let's go. And they start wheeling and dealing, right? And then after the first Wheel of Fortune round, then they talk to the contestants, right? You're from California, blah, 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 blah. Why? Why have they pushed it to afterwards? I love the concept because it's, in music, they used to say when you're learning, I used to be, a god-awful musician, but I was a musician nonetheless, and these music producers and stuff like that would say, get to the hook, right? When you're learning to play music, when you're in a band or whatever, get to the hook as quickly as possible, right? When you're a well-known and you're a millionaire, you can take 5-minute intros to your music. I feel videos, stuff like this, shows are no different. Get to the hook. Get to the point. If you've been paying attention other than the very first video, right, why you need a show, I don't come on here every time and say, hi, my name's Robert Big Man Evans. I'm the big owner and operator of the Big Man Real Estate Team, powered by eXp Realty. I don't say that at the top of every video. I don't need to. You're here. You paid to be here. You don't need to listen to me for 20 seconds at the beginning of every video tell you who I am. You know who I am. If someone comes, if you're using video or podcasting or anything else where people have to seek out to find that information, they have to subscribe to your channel or they have to go to YouTube or they have to go to your Facebook page or whatever, they know who you are. There is no need to introduce yourself countless time after time after time, right? They are watching you. They know who you are. Lead with content mentality, meaning, again, what is all of these shows, all of these, you are in episode 7 of spliced up information, and I try to pack as much information into that plan as possible, right? It's why I've tried to splice this up into as many pies as I can to spend as much time on that particular topic as I feel that it needs to be, right? Again, remember the content, right? The number one most important thing is content. Content, right? So your show should be get to the hook, get to the point, lead with content, and then more content, then more content, then more content, and then wrap up by teasing about your next content. Right? Lead with content, give them more content, give them more content. The only thing you can really add to that is more content of what they want, right? I'll tell you, experts at this. I talked about it in a previous episode briefly. HGTV, right? Which I believe started out as Home and Garden TV, which has literally just become, they might as well call it the Property Brothers Network, right? Or the Real Estate Network or whatever. I think Property Brothers at this point has, I don't know, 5 or 6 different versions of their show, and good on them. I appreciate them. I applaud anybody that's figured out their angle, what they're going to do, how they're going to make money, and they are great at it, right? And good for them. Got utmost respect for them. But here you are, right? They know what their content is. They know what people are like about it. And then they create spinoff after spinoff after spinoff after spinoff. NCIS, right? I think it's on CBS. You have NCIS, NCIS Los Angeles, NCIS New Orleans, right? I think they tried an NCIS Cyber. And how did they learn? Cyber only lasted, I think, 1 season. Now, what happened to it? Well, people weren't consuming it. So what did they do? They got rid of it. And then they gave them more of NCIS New Orleans and more episodes of NCIS Los Angeles and the original NCIS, right? Property Brothers is no different, right? People ate up the original content. So what did HGTV do? They gave them more, right? Flip or flop, right? When it was really popular, what did they do? They gave them more. Reality TV, we're all sitting here going, oh my God, how did reality TV become a thing, right? Even reality TV is scripted. When I say scripted, it's planned, right? They don't know exactly what they're going to say or exactly how they're going to react, but they have a gist. They know what's going to happen in any particular episode, right? Any of these Survivor and all this kind of stuff, it is all planned. What's going to happen, how it's going to happen, the drama that's created from it. Game shows, again, they don't know who's going to win that round in a game show, but they know what the plan is when someone does. They know eventually someone's going to win. It's all planned. It has to be planned. Otherwise, it would just be chaos, right? Again, think about your favorite TV show. It has a formula. I go back to NCIS because it's so popular. It has a formula. They catch or kill the bad guy, which apparently here recently it's become more kill than catch. They catch or kill the bad guy every week. And if they don't catch or kill the bad guy, I'm upset because I got to come back next week for them to watch them finish off catching or killing the bad guy. I know that's going to happen. But again, I have a plan. You gotta plan out your show. You gotta know what it is you're talking about, when you're gonna talk about it, and how that applies to your audience, right? You gotta know what it is. I believe so much in this plan and starting to piece it apart. I said it last time in the most important thing being content, and try to change your mindset to a content mindset, and you start to piece apart other people's content. You start to ask questions. Well, wait a minute, they didn't give me what I was looking for, or are they trying to get to this point? You will start to do that when you get to this mentality of a plan and content. When you start creating your show, you start applying that framework of what you've learned to other things like TV shows or movies. When my wife and I are watching a TV show that we really enjoy, if there's a point in this storyline, sometimes it's my wife, sometimes it's I, we'll hit pause, we'll look at each other, and we'll discuss what we think is about to happen. Or we'll talk about what we think, where that is going. There was a point a couple of days ago where we were watching a particular show, and we hit pause, and it was like, oh, that connects to this, what they did 2 episodes ago. And my wife goes, I didn't even catch that one. That's an awesome catch, right? The point is you will start to change your mindset, and you'll start to see these skills in other things that you enjoy, and all of a sudden it makes sense to you why you enjoy them, right? All of these now, and also another thing I want to put over to you is just because something's live doesn't mean it's not planned. Every radio show that we all listen to in the morning, right? Dudley and Bob, KLBJ FM 93.7. Dudley and Bob, KLBJ 93.7 KLBJ FM, right? My radio voice, my best radio voice that I can pronounce up there. But radio shows in the morning, they are absolutely planned. Now, that doesn't mean they don't get off on a 10-minute tangent because they find something funny or somebody does something unexpected that's funny. Their personalities come out, and that has to be part of your show. That's why it can't be a script, that it has to be planned. Your personality needs to come through in that plan, right? That's why it can't be scripted. We all read completely different. If I sat here with these pages and started reading off, the tonality of my voice would change, right? I would lose all inflection, all that kind of stuff, unless I was just an amazing reader, and that was my job, right? No, you need your personality. This is the you show, right? Your show is hosted by you. It is done by you, right? In whatever format you create. So a plan gives you the flexibility to put through that, right? Everything, again, live, just because it's live doesn't mean it's not planned. My kids, we're about to start another season. Excuse me. I'm parched. Me drinking water was not planned, but it is in the flexibility category. Now, my kids are about to start another season of, here in Austin, we call flex football. It's kind of in between flag and regular football. It essentially is full contact, meaning blocking, that kind of stuff, 9-on-9, but 2-hand touch. So it's not tackle, but in every other form, it's full contact. Right? Now, being that it's that in-depth, even when they played flag football, again, I've always coached. I love to coach defense. As far as I'm concerned, I teach my kids, if the other team scores 0, we win, right? That's the only possibility, right? So, but the point is we have a plan. We have an offensive plan. We have a defensive plan. We go in, these kids are going at each other live, okay? The other team never wants to follow the script that we have set for them, which is to lose. Right? Okay? But, hook 'em horns. Point is, though, that's the script, is for the other team to lose, for us to win, right? That's the goal, but the plan is to go in, and we want to do this, this, and this, based on what kind of team they are, and we know our plan, but it's a live event. That other team does not want us to accomplish our goals of our plan. They're going to do everything they can to disrupt our plan, but that doesn't change that you have to have one, right? Vloggers, all these live, Casey Neistat, I mentioned him in a previous video, and I keep bringing him up because this guy, again, he's the most well-known YouTuber in the history of YouTube, especially daily vlogging. This guy, he's a daily vlogger is how he started out. Now, he doesn't do it daily anymore. He doesn't have to. He sold 2 of his companies, I think, now for millions and millions of dollars. But the point is as a daily vlogger, he didn't accidentally show up at the particular place that he was doing a live video that day or recording his vlog that day. He didn't, he used to do these videos where he would skateboard down busy streets in New York City in the craziest get-ups or whatever, and just gauge people's reactions to him and stuff like that. Well, that was on purpose. It would be no fun to watch him do a video sitting on his couch eating potato chips, watching, whatever on TV. I say that. There's probably a YouTube channel out there that gets a lot of views doing just that, but they embrace what they are at the very least. I guess that's their take, right? They're doing those things on purpose because at the very least there's a skeleton, there's a plan in the works that makes them do what they do. I hope that makes sense. I hope I've convinced you of the importance. If anybody's going to skip a step, this is a test step usually they try to skip, and it usually means craziness, right? And then they wonder why that craziness happens. They wonder why the content gets off track or why their message didn't get across. Do not skip this step. A plan is a must. It can be a half a page, but it still needs to be a plan, okay? That, my friends, that, folks, is the second most important thing. Again, a plan. First most important thing, you better not have forgotten, it's content, 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 right? Second most important part, most important thing, blah, blah. Most important thing is a plan. On our next video, we tease the next video, right? That's what we do, okay? We just finished the second most important thing, right? Is a plan. The third most important thing is what's coming up next. Your next video, I think it's video 8, is the third most important thing. Can you believe it? It comes after 1 and number 2, okay? The third most important thing. We will see you on the other side. Keep going, keep rolling. I hope you're having a lot of fun.